Hello everyone, we are Group 1, and our group members have Ellen, Irene, Eva, and Janice. Here are contents. Next, I will briefly introduce the contents of our presentations. About the story of Apollo and Daphne, I will focus on the character introductions and reflection sections. The story is about the love that was interfered with, and about the story of Jove and Io. My group members will narrate the story and discuss the relationship between gods and humans, showing that this is not just a simple love argument. As for Pan and Syrinx, like the previous two stories, this is also a story about forced love, and we will consider the purpose of the articles. And I think each group members has a different way of looking at stories and sharing contents. Next, we will move on to the first story, Apollo and Daphne. These are the characters' introductions of the story about Apollo and Daphne. First, Apollo. His another name is Phoebus, the god of sun and bright. His weapon was arrows, which could bring plague whenever it was shot, and he regarded this ability as glory in war. Next, Daphne. Peneus' daughters, who don't want to be involved in any romantic relationship. Her lifestyle was similar to that Artemis. They both loved being in nature and rejected contact with men. I think because they didn't want to get caught up in the trouble of love, just want to be themselves. Jove, thus another name, the fathers of Apollo and Artemis. He doesn't appear much in these segments. Later, Irene and Ellen will add more stories and details about him. Artemis. Her another name is Phoebe, Apollo's twin sister, one of the virgin goddess. As mentioned earlier, her lifestyle is one that Daphne admires. Cupid, the son of Aphrodite, controlling love with arrows. Different from Apollo, his arrows will not cause actual damage. However, it should not be underrated. The beginning of the story was Apollo went to provoke Cupid, because he thought arrows was a symbol of honor, instead of letting Ali fall in love. And of course, Cupid felt offended. He punished him by shooting two arrows. One represents love, struck Apollo, and other struck Daphne, both disgusted. This is why the two began to chase and escape. In the end, Daphne, unable to endure the torment anymore, decided to ask her father for help and transfer her into a tree. Next, I would like to share my two favorite paragraphs. The first is about Apollo. He praises everything that he can see, her fingers, hands, and arms, bare to her shoulders. And what is hidden prize even more. She flees more swiftly and the lightest breeze. I think this shows how crazy he loved for Daphne, even to the point of believing she was perfect, which is different from my previous understanding of Apollo. It not only describes the power of Cupid but also expresses Daphne's beauty. What's more, the writing is also beautiful, like the use of hidden prize to describe Daphne. Then, a paragraph with a completely different emotions from the previous page is Daphne's plea. She can't bear the pursuits anymore. She just wants to relieve. Help me, dear father. If your waters hold divinities, transform me and destroy that beauty by which I have to well pleased. I find these two passages particularly ironic when placed together. Apollo's continuously pursuit of her beauty. However, she decided to giving up her beauty, and perhaps this was their fate. To my opinion, it is hard to confirm whose fault it was. Although it certainly stemmed from Apollo's provocations, Cupid punished the innocent. However, one thing is certain. Daphne was prevented from living her life she wanted as a result. This is the end of my presentation.
Hello everyone, now I'm going to introduce the first part of the story called Jove and Io. Here is the character introductions. First is our protagonist, Io. She is the daughter of Inachus, the river gods. In this story, she was turned into a cow by Jove to avoid discovered by June. Jove, Zeus another name in Greek mythology. He is the well-known king of the gods, and he is June's husband. I will tell you how bad he is later. June, Hera's another name in Greek mythology. She is Jove's wife, and we all know that she despised Zeus' extramarital affairs. Argus, he is the hundredth eyes giant, and his job in the story is to monitor Io. Mercury, Hermes another name in Greek mythology. He was sent by Jove to kill Argus and rescue Io. The story starts from a father who can't find his daughter. The river gods feel sad and fear. All of this happens because of the instigator in this story, Jove. Jove saw Io by the river and harassed her. Although Io tried to escape from him, she got caught and defiled. Not for too long, June noticed something about her husband was weird, so she comes down from the sky to investigate. Jove quickly transformed Io into a cow and lied to June to avoid being discovered by her. June saw the cow and asked Jove to give her it, and Jove had no choice but to comply. After Jove had the cow, she handed Io over to Argus to keep an eye on her. Io is having a hard time at there. Even though her father finally found her, there is nothing he can help. Seeing Io is such a pain, Jove ordered Mercury to rescue her from Argus' sights. And for the rest of the story, it's up to Janice and Ellen. Okay, here I will briefly analyze the terrible things Jove did in this story, most of which would be illegal in today's society. And I really need to say, Jove is so flattered himself, and it makes me so annoying during reading this story. First, a self-proclaimed humorous opening. As I said at the beginning of the previous page, Jove harassed Io by the river. Jove said that Io was destined to delight some lucky fellows upon her wedding night. Isn't that ridiculous? Nowadays, if someone said something this rude, they would probably be taken to jail. Next, forced to have sex with others. It's obvious that Jove and Io in the story are not in love. She didn't want to have sex with him. Next, no sense of responsibility. Jove turned Io into the cow but didn't protect her well. If he can't take good care of someone, then he shouldn't touch them. Next, liar. He can just lie to his wife that the cow was born out of the earth without any guilt. And the last, pretend to be the good one besides June. When June was taking an revenge on Io because of his disloyalty, he should have reflected on the fact that he cheated first, instead of acting like Io saved her afterwards. That makes me think that he was very hypocritical. In the last page, I want to talk about the status of women in Greek mythology. Greek mythology was written by humans after all, so it can reflect the values of the time to some extent. Their status depends on their father or husband. In Greek mythology, even if the girls were harassed, their father were powerless to do anything about it, like Daphne and Io. Their freedom, they were treated like objects, with very little right to choose, like Chryseis and Helen. Their roles in Greek mythology, emphasizing men's strength while showing negative emotion, prone to cry, irritable, and jealous, like June. Women of that time were pitiful, which makes me feel even more fortunate to be born in this time.
And now I'm going to introduce the story of Pan and Syrinx. Let me explain the origin of the Pan flute and show an important thing of transformation. First, let me introduce the main character in this story. The first character is Mercury, as known as Hermes, the messenger god. He is known for his intelligence and cleverness. In mythology, he was sent by Jove, also known as Jupiter, to rescue Io and defeat Argus. Next is Argus. Argus is a giant with 100 eyes because many of his eyes are always open. He is very difficult to defeat. Another important character is Syrinx. She is forest nymph who follow the goddess Diana. Syrinx loves hunting and promised that he would never marry anyone. Finally, there's Pan, the god of nature, forest, and shepherd. He often wanders in the mountains and fields. Now, let's look at the storyline. At the beginning of the story, Syrinx lives a peaceful life in the forest. She enjoys hunting and spending time in nature. One day, Pan sees Syrinx and is immediately attracted to her. He begins to chase her through the forest because he wants to be with her. However, Syrinx does not want to marry anyone, so she runs away from Pan. She keeps running until she reaches Ladon River. When she cannot escape anymore, she asks the river nymphs for help. The nymphs transform her into reeds growing by the river. When Pan arrives, he cannot find Syrinx anywhere. Instead, he hears the sound of wind blowing through the reeds. The sound is soft and beautiful. Pan caught the reeds and tied them together to make a musical instrument. This instrument later became known as pan flute, which is called the Syrinx. Mercury tells this long and interesting story to August. Well, listen, August slowly falls asleep. When all his eyes finally close, Mercury takes a chance to kill him. Let's talk about the purpose of this story. First, the myth explains the origin of the pan flute, which is named after Syrinx. Second, it shows the scene of transformation, which is very common in Greek mythology. Third, the story demonstrates Mercury's intelligence. Instead of using strength, he used storytelling to defeat Argus. Finally, the story suggests that strength is not always the most important thing. Sometimes intelligence and strength are more powerful.
Good afternoon, everyone. The part I am in charge of the second half of Jove and Ios. First, I will briefly introduce the storylines, and then I want to discuss 2 points. One is the suffering of Io, and the other is the power of the gods. First, let's take a look at the storylines. After Io is transferred into a cow by Jove and sent to Juno as a gift, Jove felt pity of Io's sufferings, so he sent Mercury to kill Argus and release Ios. And Juno knows this news. She becomes very angry and sent a Furies to chase Ios and to wander around the world. Ios suffered and wandered for a long time. Jove can bear to see these animals, so he promised to Juno that he will never approach Io again. And then Juno stopped the punishments and transferred Io back to the humans again. In the stories, one thing that upset me the most is Io's situations. She did nothing wrong, but she experienced the most tortures in the stories. Io was a mortal woman loved by the god Jove. In order to hide Ios, Jove transferred her into a cult. But Io still remained her human mind. Io can sing, but she has no ability to talk. She only can mourn. Io lost her identity and freedoms. Not only that, because Jove killed Argus, Juno punished Io by sending a gadfly to chase her around the world to express her furies. In the end, her transformation and long journey of pains shows how powerless humans can be when the god decided their fate. After we take a look of Io's sufferings, I want to talk about god powers. In many Greek stories, we can see God also have emotions and lust. They will compete with others, feel jealous and hatred about someone's success and relationships. They always interfere with humans' life by their extraordinary powers. God sometimes can guide and protect humans, but sometimes they will torture human life whatever they want. This shows their greatness, however, it also reveals how petty they are. That's all I want to share today. Now I will do the conclusion for our presentations. In Apollo and Daphne, Phoebus tries everything to pursue Daphne. Also, in Pan and Syrinx, Pan fell in love with Syrinx at first sight. They both pursue the girl they desire without any respect. As a result, transformations become the only way for Daphne and Syrinx to escape. Then, in Jove and Ios, transformation is the way that gods punish humans due to their conflict. Together, this story shows that transformation often happens because of love, jealousy, pride, and punishment. And they also reveal how powerful gods can seize whatever they want or control the fate of humans. In the midst of our societies, we will act impulsively because of our desire and emotions. These actions will lead to transformations. However, we can always learn from the errors and not to make the same mistakes. Transformation suggests that nothing stays the same forever in life. I think Ovid wants to tell us that change is a constant process of the world, and that will influence our destiny in any way. That's all we want to share today. This is Group 1's presentation. Thanks for your patiently listening.